Can you hear?
Test.
Testing, testing. Here we go. All right, hi. Well, I'm CJ Connoy. I'm the founder and director of One Day Games. I'm with my son, Alex Connoy. Hi, Alex.
How we doing?
We are going to talk about board games to video games, and we're going to treat this as kind of a conversation, a bit of a workshop. I'm going to talk about my experience, where I come from, why I'm so into this, and my journey in video games a little bit, and then finally, we can get into a little bit of the excruciating detail of how you can actually create video games from board games. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Alex, who's our moderator, and you go ahead and ask me whatever random questions you want, and we can get into it. Is that okay? All right, let's go, man.
All right. So for anybody who doesn't know your background, what did you do before you started saying, "Hey, I'm going to start making my own adaptations of games"? What is a little bit about CJ here?
All right, well, the first thing I did was I got laid off from my job. That was the first thing I did. So 4 months ago, I was a Sony Interactive, and I got laid off. Our studio was closed. Now, if anybody's in video games, they know that this is one of the hardest times we've had video games in a long time. And there's been just thousands and thousands of people laid off. And we were unfortunately affected by that also. Now, I come from, a place where I've been making video games as a producer, as a creative, as a designer since 1994, which is right before you were born. Right before you were born. And I started at Sony making sports games. I went to Activision in Treyarch, where I produced a bunch of Call of Duty games. And then back to Sony, where we are creating some brand new IP in a couple of different studios. And so as a producer, I've shipped, probably 20 games over my career, maybe more. And as a designer, I've designed sports games. I've designed first-person shooter games. And then when I became available 4 months ago, I said, let's take this opportunity to try something new. And I thought what I'd do is I always worked a little bit with AI as a tool. And I thought, and I kept hearing, like, what is this? You can just instantly make a game. Instantly make a game, no problem. So I said, well, let me see how good it is. Let me just try it out. And so what I did was I actually said it was like a random Tuesday. Random Tuesday at like 4 p.m. I said, I'm going to see if I can get a game built, tested, deployed, and up on live in 1 day or less than 1 day. That was my challenge to myself, and I did it. And it was really challenging, and I had to learn a bunch of new stuff. But it was kind of a crash course in what I was supposed to be doing. And it was really fulfilling to see that, man, I could actually do this. So coming from a place where I've been on production teams with hundreds and hundreds of people, this time it was just me, so it's very different. So I'm used to being on teams that take, hundreds of people working for years to make a video game, right? Whether it's some Sony game or some Call of Duty game, and to be able to build something, mind you, very simple, that quickly, and to get it out and get it shipped on live was a revelation.
Absolutely. To dive into the reasons of why you created this game, what influenced, the actual games. Here we have Trash Dice here. If you can see that in the camera. Why Trash Dice in particular? What was the reason? What's going on with Trash Dice?
So Trash Dice is a great game that you can buy it. You can buy it on bigdiscoveries.com, and you can buy it on Amazon. It's a great simple, kinetic, energetic dice game, right? And I knew about it because one of the guys who created it is actually a neighbor of mine. And so I didn't even tell him I was doing this. Didn't even tell him. I said, I wonder if I can, creating a basic game, a super basic rudimentary game that I can get on live in 1 day, that's a test. This is an actual product. I wondered if I could actually do it. So Um, I chose this game and I said, I wonder if I could find a way to translate and interpret the spirit, the vibe, the energy of a fast-paced, physical, kinetic dice game into an instant browser game that played on a mobile. It's very challenging to do, because when you're playing on mobile, you tap. You're not throwing dice. You're not yelling at your opponent. I can't believe you stole my dice. You can't do any of those things. It's just you and the computer. And so I figured if I could choose that, and if I could figure out how to crack that problem, that would be real growth for me. And it would be a major milestone in how I can develop these games as a solo studio.
We have another game over here too. This one is called What's Under Your Bed. What's Under Your Bed about?
All right, so What's Under Your Bed is that's another one. This one's from Lethal Chicken Games, and this is a very different game than Trash Dice. This is a game about monsters and about matching cards and about last man standing. This one was I'll get into it a little bit later, but this one was a very difficult game to figure out. But I was drawn to What's Under Your Bed because it is a multiplayer card matching game, and then how can I translate that? How can I make it work? How can I make an exciting game, exciting, love letter to that physical game on mobile? It was very different from Trash Dice, so I took it as another challenge to level up our capabilities.
Absolutely. What was one of the biggest takeaways you've gotten from, starting from scratch? Or did you have a background in knowing how to build, these board games into something you could have physically on your phone?
So, okay, a little origin story. So when I was a kid, I played D&D. I played all the games, right? I played Risk. I played, those back when I was a kid. They used to have like text video games. I played those too. So I've always been into games. I've always been into board games specifically. I didn't have a whole lot of friends growing up, so I would be my own dungeon master and I'd be my own party, and so I'd play by myself. But I made some great dungeons. Great dungeons. Nobody would ever survive my dungeons, including me. I remember when I was a kid, it was 1,000 years ago, and I went to the Apple store with my dad, and we saw the Apple II Plus. And the salesman saw me, and he said, "Hey, listen, because he could tell maybe my dad was going to get the computer, get the Apple II Plus." And he says, to me, do you like video games? And I was like, I lived the arcade. I love playing video games. He says, on this, you can make your own video games. I was like, what? What did you just say? I can make my own video games? That's crazy, right? And I remember we got the Apple II Plus. I was really lucky that we got it. And I think as far as I got, I'm telling you, Alex, as far as I got was I made it like a little text game. Like, if this, then go to that text game. It was the farthest I ever got, right? And I had to set it down because I'm not an engineer. And my math isn't so great, frankly. But I still love video games. And I went in the video game industry, and I was able to work with all these amazing people, work on all these amazing games, these amazing studios over the years. So grateful for it, for all those experiences. But I still wasn't able to make the game by myself, we'd ship millions of units and billions of dollars and everything else. But my 11-year-old CJ dream was not yet fulfilled, right? And so finally, when I got laid off 4 months ago, I decided to try to come full circle and say, can I actually fulfill that dream, I guess, whatever the word is, and create my own game. And so I know it's silly or cheesy, but it's like, for me, making that first test game and putting it on live that one day was a fulfillment of 45 years of something, a seed that was planted in me a long time ago. So there's a little bit of childlike, a little bit of little boy in me when I make these games. It feels like I'm a kid again.
That's awesome. Very cool. So 45 years, but you got it done in one day.
Yeah, the first test game was a very simple, rudimentary tic-tac-toe game. I chose it because it is the most rudimentary, the most simple game I could possibly think of. And I was able to get for a version 1.0 of the game, it was as polished as I could make it in about 8 hours. I got it on live, got it working, got it QA'd. And the interesting thing was, so I'm a video game producer, and I am in charge of software engineers. I'm in charge of artists, animators, designers. I produced Core Online. I produced Core Engine. I produced tools and how we make the games and who's working on what when. I've done all those things as a producer, Sony and at Call of Duty. And I found myself, because it was just me working on this stuff, I had to set up a mini studio around the game. So it had to have a QA infrastructure. It had to have a deployment infrastructure. And so what I wanted was, I wanted to be able to develop the game both in development when it's not on live, and then develop it when it was on live. So I can do both. I was developing it the whole way before it went live, regular development, regular iteration, regular fixes, that kind of stuff, and the world didn't see it. But then what I want to do is I want to deploy it on live, and then I want to test hot fixes. I want to test major title updates to it. And so I did major updates to it, just like if we were at Call of Duty, just like if we're at Sony, on a much, much smaller scale. And so I was able to take all my learnings from Call of Duty and PlayStation and create this little studio, One Day Games, where we have QA, we have deployment, we have these continuous pipelines that look at the game, look at the health of the studio, and give me reports daily about what's happening with the studio, while I'm able to go off and create the new game or whatever we're doing at the time. So I'm not sure that answered your question at all, but that's what pops into my head when you ask that.
Absolutely. So if we were to go a deep dive into the projects you're currently working on here, right? We go from video games into board games. What's the switch that you flip when you're now directing by yourself the creative process?
Yeah, so this is for me this blew my mind. So one of the first things I wanted to do was I wanted to take the board game and respect it and write and really not being silly, but really write a love letter. The digital companion should be a love letter to the board game. It really should. It should not be a one-to-one copy. I don't think anybody wants to play a one-to-one copy of a board game on your phone. One, it doesn't have the kinetic energy that a board game has. Two, it's missing the social aspect of trying to steal someone's cards across from you or buy someone, steal someone's property or whatever, some cool aspect of a board game. So I wanted to find out what was the most important thing about trash dice and what was the most important thing about what's under your bed. And for trash dice, it was the dice. I mean, the dice, and I know it's an obvious statement, but as you're making the digital companion, as you're making this game, there's so many aspects that have to get done to represent faithfully the board game, right? And there's elements that are maybe not so sexy, right? How is a board game laid out? How fast the rolls? How fast should the computer's turn be? Is there a pause here? What are the UI, UX elements there? What about sound? What about music? All these different things. So it's easy. And what about bugs that pop up? What about problems with basic UX flow about I don't understand how the game's progressing? All those things went into my backlog as I was making trash dice. And I tell you that because it was easy to forget who or what the star of the show was. And the star of the show in trash dice is the dice. And it's very easy for me as I'm creating this digital game to lose sight of that. And so what I had to do was I had to kind of go back and reset and reset and reset. Now, Trash Dice was a game where I had the basic prototype of the digital game. I think cracked pretty early. I had that understood or had that working pretty early on in the process. The whole thing took me about maybe around a month or so to get done. not including just polish, just the core of the game. But once I understood that, once I reminded myself that the dice were star of the show, then I can say, okay, what am I doing to show them off, to make the user feel more connected to it? Because really, at the end of the day, what I want is I want people to play the digital companion to fall in love with the board game all over again. I'm not trying to make replacements for the board game. I'm trying to make a game, a digital game, where people can fall in love with the board game all over again, where people can rediscover the board game all over again, right? I want people to say, you know what, I already love Trash Dice. I bought it, right? It's great. We played it at home. It's great. I didn't even know I could play it on my phone for a second. That's kind of cool, right? And speaking of that, you know, for me, it's like I can play here. Look at this. I can play this anywhere. I can play this. I can play this. I can play this at home. I can play it in my friend's house, wherever, right? The digital companion is for anywhere else. For anywhere else. So, like in my head, where my head went was, I want a place where I can play Trash Dice in line at Knott's Berry Farm. I want a place where I can play Trash Dice in line at a movie theater, right? Or if I'm taking the bus to go to school, right? I want to be able to just break it out and just play it for a minute on my phone, right? And these are the digital companions that making it at One Day Games are browser games. They're not apps to download. There's no email capture. There's no account to create. There's no password to worry about. They're instant play, downloadable games. You play them right away. So making a game that was respectful of Trash Dice's IP, making a game that made people who already had it really appreciate what they had, and maybe see the IP from a different angle possibly. And then maybe, if we're lucky, new people who had not yet played Trash Dice, the tabletop game, could find a way to discover it by playing the digital companion. And really, it's the same thing for What's Under Your Bed. What's in Your Bed, I think, from a core gameplay mechanic standpoint, it was a much harder problem to solve for me than Trash Dice was, because I think fundamentally they're different games. Fundamentally, it's a party here. Dude, we're at the con. We're at the con. It's gonna be loud.
Here.
It's gonna be come on, it's the con. So if Trash Dice is a 2-player game, What's in Your Bed is a multiplayer game where I think it's like 4 players in the game, right, or even 5 players in the game. And so what you have is, from a mobile game design perspective, how is that even going to work? And so it took me a long time to figure it out. So it's like, the first version of What's in Your Bed, I had a full rule set, fully realized, like 4 or 5 player card matching game on my phone, and it did not work. It did not work at all, right? I couldn't understand what was going on. I'd spent weeks on the UX, right? Like notifications, communication, all the things that you know what's happening around you in the game that we take for granted when we're playing just amongst us, right? Amongst ourselves, rather. Because I can see the cards you have. I don't want to play my card now. I'll play my card later because of strategy. I'm not even playing the cards in What's in Your Bed. I'm playing you. I don't want to play my monster yet. I'm waiting for you to play your monster. That stuff was getting lost in translation. So, and translation and interpretation is a huge part of what I'm learning to do at One Day Games, where I have to take, like you were asking, I had to take what is the kernel, what is the cornerstone, what is the central vibe that has to be carried through from the tabletop to the digital. And for What's in Your Bed, it was the monsters. It was like, what is fun about these monsters? I mean, if you've seen What's in Your Bed, it's a wonderful IP. They developed. The creators of this tabletop game created these wonderful monsters. This to me, this wonderful world of these spooky monsters. And I said, how can I write a love letter to those monsters, to that IP? And it came back in the form of, well, you know what? The monsters have to come through on the game experience, and we have to give jump scares. And we have to music that kind of gives you a little bit of willies. And just, we have to take advantage of things. Let me try to say it the right way. When we're making these digital companions, from my point of view, we have to take advantage of opportunities that they don't have with the physical game. With the physical game, here's what's under your bed. Really cool IP, really cool monsters, really cool cards. If you've ever seen them. What I want is I want the monsters to come at you and jump and scare you. They can't do that with the physical game, but we can do it in the digital companion. And so we said, let's do that. Again, I'm not sure if I answered that question either, but there you go.
All good. We're here for the ideas. But speaking of the ideas, obviously we got two very special IPs with you. What was really like your process from, okay, I'm gonna look at this game, maybe I've played it a couple times. What really, sets the tone for, yes, for Trash Dice, well, it's obviously in the name dice, but for the monsters, what's under your bed, right? Maybe off the top of your head, what is under your bed? What is your process as, your creative thinking in that monsters are going to take over this game? How do you come to that realization that the monsters are the game and you're going to bring that through the digital companion?
Yeah, it's kind of like I was saying earlier. So we had to go back and we cannot make a copy. The digital companion cannot, the way I feel about it, the way I'm making these games, it cannot be a copy of the physical tabletop game. If it's a direct copy, what am I doing? Why am I playing it? I feel really strongly that we should take the elements, this incredible IP, these incredible hero assets that these creators have made for these for Trash Dice and for What's in Your Bed, and find a way to manifest them and to communicate them in different ways on the digital platform. That really, I hope when people engage with these digital games, that they see the physical game in a new light. Like, because in the digital game, the monsters come get you. Like, the digital game, they jump scare you. They really try to get you in the digital game. And so I hope that when people have that experience in the digital game, they come back to the tabletop game, which they already have, or maybe they'll go buy now, and say, in my mind, I can feel the monster coming to get me because I play the digital game. And the same thing with Trash Dice. What a simple, elegant concept they've come up with this game. And you can play it, anybody can learn it, anybody can have fun with it. What a great game. So we said, how can we take what they're doing and expand upon it a little bit? And so we added a very simple progression system where as you win rounds, you get special dice skin. So you get like a toxic dice skin, a bubblegum dice skin, a diamond dice skin, and you can actually beat the game. So, and actually it's a good segue. We wanted to make sure that because we're playing against the computer rather than people with these digital companions, that we wanted to be kind of a succinct, winnable experience. So we didn't want you to have to feel like you can just play forever, although frankly you can play forever in these games. We wanted to give you win conditions where you felt like you spent some time, you've enjoyed maybe either meeting this IP or being reintroduced to this IP, and feel like you've accomplished something.
Gotcha. When we go into digital companions, my mind goes to maybe, when you're playing a video game and you have a pet with you and that thing follows you throughout the game. But when we're talking digital companion here, you almost have the idea where it's a computer that you play against. Is that more what we're focused on, at least in the initial setup of the digital companion? Or is there an expansion for, if you want to play with me, for instance, and we both have another companion per se?
Yeah, so again, I've just been doing this for 4 months now. Very happy that we're either shipped or getting ready to ship 2 of these retail games. But I can easily see a world where we create multiplayer versions of these games for sure. And here's the thing. This is such, and I'll get these 2 examples, Trash Dice and What's in Your Bed. They have such rich IP and rich fiction about these 2 games that if we wanted to, we can go some different directions with these games. And that would be working with the creators and the owners of the IP and say, hey, listen, are you guys interested in doing this? Are you interested in doing that? I think it's not only these 2, but there's so many different board games out there that I would love to do this for or with. Like, I don't want to start naming games because I'll get myself in trouble, but it's like there are so many games out there that I can see great digital companions for. These are short and sweet experiences you can play instantly on your phone with no email, no downloads, no accounts, and it gives you a way to either be introduced to an existing really cool IP like these games, or it's a chance to meet it for the first time, um, and just give the IP that discoverability. So I think to answer your question, these games can absolutely be expanded. And coming from my production background, making games bigger and expanding them, definitely done a lot of that.
For anybody who's a board game lover, or anybody just who is just interested in perhaps code, how would you describe the process for yourself from 4 months in? What's a day in the life look like for you to even maybe think about developing a companion? What's that initial kickstart there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I worked on games for PlayStation and for Call of Duty, my job was basically a project manager, right? I would ask them. I'd be interested to know in what they're delivering. I'd be interested to know, when they're delivering things. I'd be interested to know who is delivering the things. But the how was always their expertise. This is a lot like that. So when I first started out, I was able to fall back on all my production and video game production knowledge. And so when I was working with the tools, I was able to, again, establish and direct requirements for the what and the when, and then it was, it's the AI developer's job to come up with the how. Now I knew enough as a producer where I could check a lot of that, and from I can ask project management related questions. I have no engineering degree, but I've been around software engineers my whole career. Been working with software engineers for 30 years. And so I was able to ask the right questions as far as, well, why are we doing it this way? And why did those two steps happen before those two steps? From a production standpoint, from a workflow standpoint, I was able to set up a milestone schedule. I was able to set up a backlog. I was able to set up triage when things went off the rails. Because as you can imagine, so AI is a great collaborator, very powerful, very capable. But man, sometimes it is just dumb. Sometimes does some really dumb stuff, and so it ends up being a lot of the training I had as a producer at Sony and Call of Duty comes into play here, because it's funny, I had the same kind of conversations that I have on the floor at a development studio as I have here making these games. So it really helped me. I would say that if there was I would love to speak with people, creative people who are either board game creators or people who want to make these types of digital companions to existing board games, or maybe make them at the same time. I don't know. I'd love to be able to sit down with these folks and talk to them about my experience of how it's gone, because I think I'm cheating a little bit because I have the background in game development. I would love to speak to people who are really coming at it fresh, because I feel like I'm able to ask a lot of questions and kind of sanity check a lot of the stuff that's going on in development, because of just the experience I've had. Yeah, I think if I was coming at it for the first time and I didn't have any game development background, I think I would have been much worse off than I was when I started.
Speaking on the experience, then, what would you say is, an example of the knowledge that you know, whether it's knowing exactly what words to say, or what languages to use when coding? What's that kind of magic sauce, if you would?
Yeah, it's really AAA game development language. It really is. This is what I want. This is when I want it in this specific order, and it has to have, to be considered done. It has to have these things delivered as part of the deliverable. Now that may seem basic and normal, but you have to have a stick-to-itiveness. You have to have a force of will to make sure that the tools are doing that every single time. Like I don't let the tool just create stuff willy-nilly. Like it has to create exactly what I want. And mind you, I'm not just doing the production side of it. I'm doing the direction. I'm doing the direction side of it. I'm doing the design side of it too. So I'm like, I write. I'm just typing tons and tons and tons of notes, and I want it to do these things in a certain order. And so it has to. Each check-in, each gate has to be a specific thing that I want. And if not, I think the whole program feels like it's getting off track really quickly. Like it can spin out of control really fast. I've seen it happen. And you know, this is a real. And here's the thing. I know we say 4 months, but it's been a real crash course for me. You know, and being that I've been laid off, I've got a little time in my hands, right? It's like, and so I do this. It's funny. It's like game development. It's like regular game development. I'm there day and night on my computer working on this. It's like, it's always there, ready to go. I'm always there, ready to go. And I've learned, frankly, I've learned a lot of stuff to say. I've learned a lot of stuff. I've failed a lot too. I've said a lot of, not that I'm saying anything bad, but I've said things the wrong way that didn't get to where I wanted to go as fast as I wanted to. Now I'm learning to say the right things at the right time. I'm learning what it can do. I'm learning what it can't do. I'm learning how to balance resources, not to burn through resources. I'm learning which models to use, which effort to use. I'm learning how to use the models in conjunction, use them in parallel, use them together to coordinate some things. It's been really exciting and really eye-opening. Yeah.
Very interesting. For somebody like myself who might not understand fully the coding language or maybe a command prompt to a computer to say this is what I need, what's like explain it to me like I'm 5. This is what I do from when you wake up to hopefully when you go to sleep. Here's how you make a game. Again, explain to me like I'm 5.
We don't have 6 hours. So, and that's a great question. So, the reason I chose these 2 games, What's Under Your Bed and Trash Dice, is because they are not some huge Call of Duty game. This is not some huge Uncharted game. These are games that I can actually get my head around and actually ship in a matter of months, right? So I intentionally, from a production standpoint and from a design standpoint, kept it very small so I could manage the infrastructure and manage the development. Having said that, there's still some basic stuff that you have to do every single day, you know, to make it go. So basically what I do is you know, cup of coffee in hand, I sit down on my computer, sit down on the keyboard, and I'll play the latest game, play the latest versions of the games I'm making currently in development. And I'll make a list of all the things that I think are wrong, or make a list of all the things I think we need to do next. Then I'll make a backlog, a triage backlog of things I want to attack in a certain order. There's only one of me, so I've got to figure out my resources and my bandwidth, which game I will attack first, and which game I will attack second. There's a certain language that I've learned to use when dealing with the tools that is kind of a hard-fought learning, because before I don't think I was being very helpful with how I was describing what I wanted. I've gotten a lot better at that, but it took time to learn how to do those things. So it's looking at the game, reviewing the current game. I mean, and that's something I've taken from PlayStation and Call of Duty too. Is like, you really want to know what's going on in the game development studio? You really want to know the health of the project? Go play the game. Like, go play the game. Like, because in game development we have meetings and we have Jira and we have Confluence and we have, you know, all this stuff going on, emails and this and that, and it's just the game. I mean, it's the only thing that matters is the game. Is the game progressing? Is the game getting better? And so I always, I'm trying to answer your question. So I try to always start with the game. How is it? What is the health of the game? And I go to sleep at night. I think about it all the time. So I come in the next morning and I sit down. I'm like, okay, I've got to change these 3 things today. So I've got to have an idea. These 3 things are going to change. I'm gonna figure out a solution to these 3 problems today. I write them all down, I organize my thoughts, I get a triage list together, and then I start using my knowledge of how to speak to the tools to get the best, bang for buck as far as the amount of resources I'm burning through to get these notes done, to get these things in the game. I will use some. I will use some tools for some tasks and the other tools for other tasks. But it'll depend on kind of the severity of the task. I'll give you an example. Some of the development is going to be pretty straightforward. Like you've already got in your mind exactly what you want. That most of the time is pretty straightforward as far as how you can get the tools to help you implement that. But if you're still in your mind trying to visualize how you're going to solve the problem, that could mean that you're going to have to spend a lot more resources on how the tools are going to help you solve that problem. And so what that means is you have to develop a language about which tool you're going to use, which model you're going to use, which effort you're going to use, which combination of tools you're going to use, all those things together. And that took a while to learn too. So it's the list of stuff, it's thinking about the game, it's playing the game, it's making your to-do list, prioritizing your to-do list, making a triage list, figuring out which tools you're going to use, figuring out which models you're going to use, and then you can get to work. But all that takes time. And so a lot of times, everything I've just described, it could be 3 p.m. by the time I actually get to actual work. Because I really am just thinking about all these different, organizing the, because what you don't want to do working with these tools, in my experience, is just start saying, oh, make a dice game. You'll get nothing back from that. You will get nothing back from that. My experience working on trash dice and what's under your bed is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of change lists. It's reviewing every single change meticulously. It's having, I know it sounds crazy because we're using these kinds of tools, but I view it as making handcrafted games. I know it sounds crazy, but that's why I view it. Every single change list that gets implemented, I review and I direct. And so I treat every single one like a little game unto itself. And what are the problems with this thing? And I don't just willy-nilly start working on the next thing and the next thing. No, it has to be guided. It has to be focused work. And that just, yes, I can cheat and use my game development background for understanding that process. But that's, I know I gave you a bit of a high level, but that's kind of how my days usually go, just like that. Did that help at all?
I think so. I'd probably have to see it.
It didn't help at all.
Maybe, but it's intriguing. On that note, we kind of dipped into the bread and butter of what your day looks like from start to getting to work. But from anybody who maybe just picks up a board game and decides, I wonder who made this, and I wonder what they'd think if I made a companion. What was the process for you to even get maybe your foot in the door with, hey, creator of Trash Dice, I made this companion. What are your thoughts? What was that kind of relationship you had? What was that kind of interaction you had to even make this a real thing, not just an idea?
Right. Well, there's a guy named Alex Mackey, and he's one of the co-creators of Trash Dice, and also What's in Your Bed, by the way. I knew Alex from a studio we worked at previously called Deviation Games, and we were both employees of that studio. Deviation Games is a great group of people, but we had our studio that was created really during COVID, and so like a lot of other studios that time, we had a hard time dealing with all that. But just a great group of people, and one of the great people I met was Alex, right? And I knew that he was a board game creator. I knew that he flew around the country talking to people about games and creating games, and he's an expert. Him and his partner Mike are expert game creators, right? And so after I created the test game, I said I really wanted to throw all my video game production and design knowledge behind making an actual game. I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to make Alex's game into a digital companion. Not a copy, but a love letter. Like a real interpretation, a real translation, so it worked on digital. Instant play. And I was going to talk to Alex about it, but I said, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to talk to him about it. I'm not going to say, because what I didn't want to do is, and this, I know this is a little off topic, what I didn't want to do was, I didn't want to create one-day games to be like a hobby. I treat it like a real game development studio. I really am shipping games. I want this to be real. I take game development very seriously. It's been the love of my life working game development. It's supported my family. It's supported my livelihood for 32 years. I take it very seriously, and I love the video game industry. But I wanted to make sure that what I was doing was real. Because that's why I picked his game, because it's a real game. It's a retail game. You can buy it on bigdiscoveries.com. You can buy it on Amazon. So I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him what I was going to do. So I did it. I went away, and he and I, talk because we're neighbors. Our kids go to school together. And so one day I said, "Hey, can I show you something?" And we went to lunch at Del Taco.
Nice.
Nice. Shout out to Del Taco.
Classy.
Shout out Del Taco. And I showed him the game, and he was blown away. Again, this is the co-creator of this game. He's blown away. He's like, "Dude, what is this?" Right? And I said, "This is the reaction I wanted. I wanted to go away and spend a month or so, however long I took to make it, and make this experience. I want the creator, one of the co-creators of the game, to see it and kind of fall in love with his own game all over again." And it happened. I saw it happen. And obviously that was the best case scenario. I'm very grateful that it happened that way. But I thought, here's a person who makes tabletop games professionally. This is what he does. And if I can impress him, and if I can create something that's not only faithful to what he made, but in his mind, a really professional, legit, retail quality game, I'm onto something. And that's why I chose this game.
What would you say is your own personal touch or your approach that, say, anybody who professionally develops those games walks through those two doors? What would be their reason to go to you specifically?
Yeah, well, listen, I would invite anybody, please reach out to me. Please reach out to One Day Games. I'm a board game fan. My family, and Alex, we play Monopoly at home. Some of the most brutal, beat-down Monopoly games you've ever seen in your life happen in our house. And I wish I could win more, but I don't. Thanks to you guys. I love these tabletop games. I feel like I'm a kid again when I play them. And so I'd say that anybody who has a tabletop game, and if they want it made into a digital companion, something that can help people discover their game, something that people can play and maybe fall in love with their IP all over again, something that highlights and really aggrandizes and really shines a light on the IP that they've created as creators of tabletop games, I wish they would reach out to me. I would love to work on their game. One Day Games is not here to replace tabletop games. I love tabletop games. We are here to surface discoverability. We're here to help make the game bigger. We're here to help make the IP bigger. We're here to reward them and to celebrate them for making these incredible board games. Call me. By the way, it's we should probably put it on, I'm sure we'll put it on the YouTube thing, but it's we'll put my email and all that stuff there. But yeah, I wish they would call me. That'd be great.
Absolutely. As far as I think a keyword you've mentioned a couple times now is a love letter. What would you say, right, to an 11-year-old who's playing board games right now, probably doesn't have to worry about, a job necessarily, but that childlike curiosity, right? If there was an 11-year-old watching this, what would you say to that 11-year-old? Shoot, it could be even the 11-year-old version of you. What would you say to them in the process of, I want to make my own video game? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I tell you what, I love that, because here's the thing. I would tell that 11-year-old the same thing that Apple store salesman told me in 1982 or 1983, whatever year it was. Do you like video games? Do you want to make your own? Because it's so doable. It's a ton of work. I'd probably try to burst their bubble right away and say, yo, it's a ton of work. it, at least my humble experiences to make these retail quality level AAA quality digital companions. Their love letters, these incredible tabletop games, is a day and night proposition. Get ready to work your butt off. The tools are great, but they're just tools. It's got to be your creativity. It's got to be your effort. It's got to be your force of will to get a game done. I mean, anybody who's been in AAA development and game development, and forgive me for a bit of a tangent, it's a force of will proposition. The only thing that makes anybody who can get a video game done and shipped is amazing to me. I don't care if it's a hobbyist person who ships a game to live, some kid gets a game up on Steam, some person ships a game to itch, some person gets a game in the Unreal Store. Whatever it is, any game that can get done to me is a miracle. It's so hard to get games done. It really is. And I've never made a tabletop game, but I can imagine it's just as hard. You got to create it, you got to produce it, you got to manufacture it, you got to create the prototype, you got to do all the things. It's got to be incredibly difficult. So my hats are off to anybody here at the con who's making these tabletop games. They're amazing. I would tell an 11-year-old kid, get ready to work your butt off. I would say, whatever you're going to create, find the most important, because you can't translate all the things of a game. You have to figure out a couple of hero things. Like, it's going to be the monsters, it's going to be the dice, it's going to be the thing. And make that sing. Make it sing. Be like, yo, this is going to be kind of a jump scare vibe game. This is going to be kind of a, I feel like I'm rolling the dice, and I feel like I'm really, like, it really landed in the thing. Like, that's really going to be my thing. I'd start there. Figure out what the kernel is. Figure out what the little bit of magic is that you want to make sure that you never, ever lose when you make that game, and get ready to work really hard. But it's totally possible. I mean, it is. And here's the other thing. Absolutely go to school. Absolutely get incredible grades. Absolutely do all the things. But the great thing is these days, there's nothing stopping you from creating your own magic. You can create your own board games. You can create your own digital games. You can create anything these days. It is so cool.
Cool.
And he'd say, stop talking. You're talking too much. That's what he'd say.
Love it.
So I think we have like 5 more minutes. You got anything else?
Is there any questions I didn't get to itch your brain on?
I would just say that as the tools get stronger and stronger, I hope that I'm able to build even more complex and bigger games, but I'm intentionally keeping them small right now. I like the idea of working with small tabletop creators. I don't mean, no disrespect, just not these huge monolithic Call of Duty games, these huge monolithic, Uncharted games or something, or Last of Us. Working with these small games gives me an opportunity to create and produce and ship to retail, to live, these games in a really reasonable amount of time with a reasonable amount of resources. I'm really interested to see how the tools continue to evolve, because I've already seen tons of change in the last 4 months, frankly. And I wonder how big of games I can make at a solo studio 4 months from now. It's going to be really interesting to see.
On that note, as you're a one-man army for now, what's a good vision to put aside for yourself for the next 4 months? What's going to be like a good driving point for you to keep working?
I'd like to. I'm always looking for a new type of game to make, or a new type of experience to make. Trash Dice is an incredible game. It is very different from what's in your bed. Also an incredible game, but very different experiences. So I'm working on a couple games and experiences right now that I can't talk about yet, that are very different from those two. And it's a different platform, it's a different vehicle, but I think it's some stuff that people really haven't seen before yet. So I'm going to try to keep it small scale, but I think there's a lot of room to grow on different types of experiences that may appeal to people from instant play standpoint.
Can you give like any hint of what that might be?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Fair enough. 5 more minutes. Well, what's your biggest takeaway, right? You've transitioned from your previous career in video games, and you're in the 4 month now process of translating that from into board games. What's what are like some, I don't know, a good word to describe how you feel about this transition, or what's something about you that's like, I'm here, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, let me finish with this. Let's finish with this. So, like I said, I got laid off 4 months ago. I've been in the video game industry for 32 years. Our studio was closed 4 months ago. I have learned so much in the last 4 months shipping these games, learning these tools, and I got to tell you. And by the way, I'm not. The transition part for me has been transitioning into a much deeper understanding of what these tools can do and how I can ship product with them, ship actual games with them, right? Which is right in my wheelhouse because I ship games. That's what I do in the video game business. But I'm not transitioning like I can't wait to get my next job in video games, and it's a very hard time in video games right now, right? We got studios closing down, we got thousands of people getting laid off. It's a very difficult time. It's a really scary time, frankly. It's not fun. But I'm very excited to get my next job, wherever it may be, and to bring all this knowledge to that job. Because, I've worked with artists and engineers for 30 years, designers. But I really feel like these tools, for better or for worse, are the future. Being that I've been completely embedded in the studio, in this process, these tools for the last 4 months, day and night, I feel like I can really bring something special to the next place I work at. Be like, yo, I know you guys are kind of working with this stuff. I've really been working with this stuff, and let me tell you what I've learned about these things. So I'm excited. It's funny. You always one door closes and one door opens, right? It's kind of a little sappy, and it is. It's scary being laid off. It really is scary being laid off, right? But I know something will open up one day. But I never would have had the opportunity to make one-day games, a real company. I would never have an opportunity, get the words out, to ship Trash Dice. And I'm so grateful to work with the Trash Dice people. They're incredible. To be able to take what's on your bed and to realize that game, which was a very challenging game to make into a digital game, never would have had the opportunity. Never in a million years. So this has been a very scary, very expensive 4 months for me to learn this, but I've tried to take advantage of it. And so it's my way of saying that I'm very hopeful and very energized. Like, I can't wait to get to the next place and say, yo, yes, I've got 32 years in game development, but I've also got 4 months of one-day games, and here's what I think we can do to utilize some of these tips and tricks and techniques to make games and make other stuff. And let me finish with this. I recruited you to be as part of this show here about 10 seconds before you went on. So, Alex, thank you very much.
You got it.
Yeah, I love you, man.
Hey,
Thank you.
appreciate you, Pops. Love you too. Yeah, if you're viewing this, I had no script to follow.
You think?
Everything's in here. So
Yeah.
there we go.
And then just to all the people at LFG Con, you guys have been so great, and thank you for letting me come and speak. For those of you who didn't make it, you guys really missed out, man. This place is popping, and I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.